Okay, well, welcome everyone. Today is another class here from the Brigham Young University Family History Library. I would like to mention at the beginning that the Brigham Young University Family History Library has a virtual help desk, which is open during our business hours, which are posted on the website. So you go to the same website that you got to come to the class today, and you will see a link on the main page for our virtual help desk and a direct link to the library where you can ask questions of our missionaries who are on service. And we have a lot of other people online. So this is a great way for you. And if you're associated with a family history center, you can use us as kind of a backup resource. So if you're have a kind of a sticky question and you can't get it answered by one of the people in your family history center, you can always call us and our resources. We have people who speak various languages and people who are very, very experienced in doing genealogical research. So just thought I'd put a plug in for that. We're going to talk about, let's see, let me go back. I've got to go back now. For some years now, Family Search and MyHeritage have had a mutually beneficial partnership. And Family Search is a corporation headquartered in Salt Lake City, Utah, and it's wholly owned by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. MyHeritage is a corporation headquartered in Israel, and it is the largest genealogical website and resource for European countries. We have a few other large online genealogical oriented websites with family trees and resources of various kinds. And MyHeritage is one of the very, very largest players, if not the largest now. We don't really have any way of knowing the relative size of these various corporations. So understanding this, that we're talking about MyHeritage today because not only that, but because the primary reason is because MyHeritage is a family search partner. Now, the family search partnership is something that has been, as I mentioned, already been going on for some time, but not too many people within the church are aware of the partnership to begin with. And secondly, even if they're doing genealogical work, have not taken advantage of the access that they have to MyHeritage. MyHeritage is a subscription-based or fee-based program. It is relatively, I would say, relatively inexpensive as some on-site websites go. And you can get the full program for something between $300 and $400. I'm not sure, a year, so I'm not sure. For the people who have an opportunity, who have people in Europe, or specifically in Eastern Europe or in other places in Europe, Scandinavia, and whatever, MyHeritage is an invaluable resource. It has, as we'll get into today in this class, has fabulous resources, and is something that you should seriously consider. People, I've heard in classes over the years, I've had people often on and off say, oh, it's so expensive, and oh, I don't know if I want to get into that. Well, the question I have is just, what are you actually doing in genealogy? If it's a serious thing for you and you're really looking for people and resources, then the cost of these programs, all of the programs together, as a matter of fact, may sound fairly substantial, and for some people would be overwhelming. But if you're out there in the world of people making expenditures for programs that basically for different things, golf and other pastimes. Here in Utah, people who drive all-terrain vehicles or ATVs and have boats and go fishing in boats on lakes and things like that. The expenses for genealogy are far less than any of those types of activities. So it's unfortunately a fact of life. But the other side of this is that because of the partnership that's been created, where Family Search has supplied records to MyHeritage, and MyHeritage has then indexed those records and given the indexes to the records back to Family Search. That's one of the benefits that is accrued. And so a lot of the resources of this huge corporation over in Europe have been directly helpful to people on Family Search in finding records. So this is a two-way benefit and likely to continue for a long time in the future, as long as these companies exist. And I can assure you that the church's company, Family Search, will survive for a very long time. Okay, so members of the church have a free access. Now, if you're tuning in and you're not a member of the church, this first part you could basically understand, but it's not going to be real helpful to you. But believe me, by the time I get through the next 2 or 3 slides, we'll be into information that you'll be very happy to understand and discover. There are several issues with the Family Search family tree that can be resolved with the assistance of MyHeritage. And this doesn't necessarily involve having a membership in the church membership from the church with MyHeritage. Everyone who gets on to MyHeritage will have the benefit of all of the resources on MyHeritage at their highest level of subscription. MyHeritage starts out with a free program and then has stages where you pay a little bit more each year to get additional benefits. But all of the resources that are on the program are what are valuable. So moving on, these issues, the issues that come up that can are helpful to resolve with MyHeritage are things. Number one, they can provide a backup for data on the family tree. Now, if you are working with a program like Ancestry, and you're working with Family Search, you may want to, in a sense, put your information from Family Search over onto another program for backup purposes. And MyHeritage is a good way of doing that. In addition, when you add your information or parts of your information or whatever you want to on MyHeritage, MyHeritage will immediately begin to audit your information. And I'll tell you how that works in just a few minutes. And it will also find new duplicate entries on the Family Search website that are not available, that you can't find. In other words, you will not be given a notification from Family Search that there is a duplicate, but you will see that there is a duplicate on MyHeritage because they will show multiple entries from the family tree. Important to understand that the information that is on MyHeritage also includes the information that is in the family tree. They actually share that information so that they can help you find information about your ancestors as you put them on the tree. And if they're already on Family Search, it's very quick. You can very quickly and usually very quickly enter that information into MyHeritage because it will start finding those individuals on the Family Search family tree almost immediately. And it will also add, MyHeritage will add a tremendous number of resources that are not on the Family Search website at all. So these are are resources that are being added by the millions and millions and billions to MyHeritage that are not available on Family Search. A lot of people believe all these big websites all have the same records. Well, that's not true. They don't, and they all have their unique set of records. And so they are all uniquely valuable resources. So when you begin this, if you are a member of the church, you go through the process of creating a new synchronized family tree on MyHeritage. This is the best way to utilize the service. So in my case, for example, I created an entirely new tree on MyHeritage, even though I had one or two other trees. And as a result of that, then I have a way of synchronizing the information periodically between Family Search and MyHeritage. There are some people who have expressed concerns about, well, how they're putting more information into the Family Search family tree. Any problems with that have been dealt with very, very expediently by both parties. It's not a question of changing or making different information, but providing new and updated information to existing people in both sides of the question. And so you can begin this by synchronizing up to 8 generations of your family tree with the family tree on the MyHeritage website. As I mentioned, this is a benefit of the partner program for members of the church. So you go through the process of signing into a new account with MyHeritage. If you already have a family tree on MyHeritage, you create a new family tree. It doesn't add any information to whatever existing family tree you have on there. Now, there's a question that comes up continually with this, and that is, well, what if I have all these sources and everything already on my family tree on MyHeritage, and now I'm going to have a new family tree? Well, all I can tell you is the information comes across so quickly that as fast as you want to look at anybody, you're going to get more and more information passed over to your new family tree on MyHeritage. So the step is you sign in from Family Search, and then you go to the Solutions Gallery, which is way down at the bottom of the page on the startup page for Family Search. When you sign in, you scroll clear down to the bottom of the page. You'll see a thing called the Solutions Gallery. It looks like this. And then you scroll down in the Solutions Gallery and find the MyHeritage link, which will be under the LDS Access Accounts, as it calls it. So that will give you a link over to MyHeritage. So you see Latter-day Saints Access. So we have MyHeritage for Latter-day Saints, and you click there and go through the process and the instructions as if you were creating a new MyHeritage account. Now, if you're already registered with MyHeritage, your email address will probably pop up and your login and password, but you will still be able to, with your login and password, your email and your password, and then you'll still be able to sign in and get a new family tree that will synchronize. So if this is the first time you've connected the two together, that's when that occurs. And you get a detailed report of everything that happens every time that you synchronize your data. So you can look in there and see exactly. You'll also get reminders, really consistent reminders to synchronize your family tree. So you'll see the family. I will guarantee you that when you go through this process, you will see the Family Search family tree in an entirely new light. This will change what you think about the information that you have in the Family Search family tree. It's just guaranteed to do that. So when you synchronize that tree, you may see a lot of problems. Now, here's where we're starting to get into the area that doesn't matter whether you are a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints or not. When you begin to build your family tree on MyHeritage, you will see a lot of problems. And the reason you will see that is that they probably come from the data that you've already used either in another tree or are doing research with, and it really doesn't matter. But when you synchronize it, you will see even more problems than you imagined. And that's just kind of just exactly what happens. Now it's time to use the MyHeritage tools to resolve these problems. This is what we need to do. We need to have a set of tools from MyHeritage that helps you to resolve those problems. And this is the main, I would call this the core helpful thing about MyHeritage, is that they have developed a lot of really interesting programs. But the consistency checker is and if you are familiar with Family Search, or if you're familiar with Ancestry, Ancestry knows not so much, but but Family Search has their little red exclamation points telling you that you might have a problem with a birth that was outside of the range of the ages of the parents, or that a birth occurred before the mother was born, or before the father was born, or after both died. Those kinds of things. Well, think about that as a way to improve the information that's in your family tree. But now think about it in terms of having a tremendous more amount of information. Now it's right here under the family tree menu, and you click on the consistency checker, and you get 38 different warnings and notices. And the numbers of these can run into the hundreds. Some of them are very, very simple, but many times when you click on one of these errors, at least for me, and this has happened for a lot of other people, by clicking on one error, you find out that you have a problem with more than one person. You have a problem with maybe a whole family, or even a whole line of information that's in your family tree. And those, so there's just, this applies, and you can think of it as being a housekeeping aid. You could ignore it if you wanted to, but the fact that you now have this option to have a tool that does this and gives you all kinds of different information about the consistency of the information within your family tree, gives you at least the option of correcting information that you may wish to not live with on your family tree. And the other thing is that if you find an error in your MyHeritage family tree, it is very likely that the same error is in your Ancestry or Family Search family tree. And I have to admit, the number of errors may seem overwhelming, so you may want to take your time and work on correcting the errors both in your MyHeritage family tree and the Family Search family tree, because this is a way of a window into that error. And I have to emphasize that this function and feature is not necessarily part of the Family Search partnership. This is part of the MyHeritage program. So we've kind of switched from the way that that a member of the church can take advantage of having a subscription to MyHeritage, but we also now are into things that are mutually beneficial to all. And also, you might want to choose the most serious errors at first, like children born after death or older than the parent, or things like that. Those kind of errors sometimes are transcription errors. They're just typographical errors, but many times they have a deeper problem in that a person has been selected that is not really part of the family and needs to be taken care of. And I emphasize this again, there are still a tremendous number of duplicates on the family search family tree. And I say that having spent a considerable time today merging people and still have more merging to do because of duplicates that are on the family search family tree. And it isn't impossible to have a duplicate on your MyHeritage family tree, but instead of merging those two duplicates and merging the information, you simply delete one of them. And so it's no longer a person in the family tree, and you don't have to deal with any kind of holdover information or whatever. But you've got to be careful, obviously, if you delete someone that you think is a duplicate and it's not a duplicate, then you may have a problem. And another thing, just another note here about how you manage to have, and many people say, well, I have enough, I can't keep track of everything that's on family search. How can I possibly keep track of my family tree on Ancestry or MyHeritage or some other website? And the answer to that is, if you think of these family trees as a tool that you're going to use to do specific kinds of research, then it sort of gets you out of the loop of having to keep up every date and keep up everything that's on every tree. And the important thing also to understand about MyHeritage is that this tree is not a community shared tree like Family Search. It is your tree. And unless you invite someone to come and be on your MyHeritage family tree, they're not going to, you're not going to see anybody. They're not going to make, nobody can, they can see your tree, but nobody can make any changes to your tree. Now, why can everybody see your tree? Well, we'll get to that in just a moment. And reinforce this, that MyHeritage will often show you duplicate entries. So here on the side of this slide, for example, I just picked somebody at random that I knew would probably have some duplicates out there. And so here are at least 3 duplicate entries on the family search family tree for this same person, albeit they have 3 different birth dates, and they all have the same and different, and 2 of them have different birth dates and death dates. So we'd really have to decide if there was more than one Susanna Potter, and one may have been born in London, in Westerly and New London, and one may have been born in North Kingston, and one may have been, but there is, this is what the kind of information that you're going to get that shows you immediately that there is at least an issue. And all I did to get this information was to search for Susanna Potter in the, and to click on the entries that showed her entries in the family search family tree. Okay. And additionally, there's links between, or you can search for a person on the MyHeritage family tree. And when you find that person, you can search for someone on the family search family tree, because family search family tree is one of the options that comes up. And so if you have someone on your tree, you can just simply go search for that same person on family search out of MyHeritage if they find the name on the family search family tree. So if you research an individual on MyHeritage, look for records, it will automatically search the family search family tree unless you filter out that kind of search. So Those are the kinds of things that show that there's a collection out there. And once again, the records on MyHeritage are not the same. And there are, as they are on Family Search, there's always overlap. Everyone has the US Census records. A lot of people share the draft registration records, things like that. But you're going to find that there are a vast number of records on MyHeritage that are that you wouldn't even have imagined would be available in the quantity that they have them. There are two types of records. First of all, and I'm talking now strictly about MyHeritage. There are two kinds of records on MyHeritage. There are records that come up as a result of record matches, and there are smart matches. Okay, and there's a big distinction between these two. And record matches are exactly what it sounds like. They are showing you searches in all the billions of records that are on MyHeritage. And so they come up with their searches, which is pretty good. Not perfect. No, I've never seen a perfect record search of a database, but even Google and everybody else can't quite get everything right. But it is a very good search engine, and it finds a lot of information about your ancestors. So what it's doing, it's searching these historical records, and you'll see here at the moment there's 15.1 billion historical records on MyHeritage. And I mentioned a moment ago about comparing the various websites. 15 billion is a lot. How does that compare to Ancestry? No one really knows, because everyone counts their records differently. There's just no way to know how many actual records correspond to whatever the records that are on these various websites. All we know is it's a lot. It's big. It's a large number. Okay. So when we're talking about record matches on MyHeritage, this is similar to the record hints that come up on Family Search, or the green leaves that come up on Ancestry, but they're more. All I can say is they're more thorough, and there's a lot more of them, and they are. The accuracy on them is very, very high. In fact, what I usually counsel people to do with MyHeritage is put your family tree on MyHeritage and let them find the records. Don't go in there and start searching for records for your family, because you'll be wasting your time, because by the time you get started and get enough information in there to prime the pump or get the searching started, you'll find that there are a tremendous number of records hints coming in. Now, when would that not happen? Well, if your family comes from an area of the world where there are few genealogical records, or where MyHeritage has few records, then you're not going to get record hints. But in those countries where you do have a lot of records, then you're going to get a lot of record hints. Let me give you an example. For example, if you have Scandinavian ancestors, let's say your ancestors came from Denmark, MyHeritage has basically acquired access to all of the Danish records going back into the 16 and 1500s. That's all the civil registration, all the census records, all the church records, everything that's available from the archives in Denmark is available on MyHeritage. And the difference is that it's all being searched by MyHeritage, and they're given record hints on all that information. So building a family tree on MyHeritage for a Scandinavian country is much faster. Now, what happens if you get your ancestors back into the 1600s and you're looking for records, there's not going to be one of these websites, doesn't matter who it is, Family Search, Ancestry, MyHeritage. Nobody can really help you too much with record matches back in the 1600s. The reason is obvious. There aren't that many records, and the chances of your person actually being in one of the existing records is fairly low, and especially as you get close to the early 1600s and into the 1500s, when records in Europe are not nearly as available as they are in other times. So here's kind of what gives you an idea of this company. I'm not sure that Family Search ever says how many users they have, but Ancestry has in the past, not too recently, but in the near past, has said that they were the largest in the world with 3.2 million, or in excess of 3 million users of their program. MyHeritage has 92 million users worldwide in every single country of the world. And what does that mean? Well, it'll mean in just a minute that as they match you out to all the people out there doing all their genealogy in all of those countries, you're likely to have what are called smart matches, meaning you will be able to see those people and connect directly to them and actually communicate with them through the MyHeritage program. It's also translated automatically into 42 different languages. So if you put in a name and do a search, you are searching in 42 different languages for that name, and with the alternate types of names, the different ways that the name appears. And there are 81 million family trees. This changes daily, so that's not going to, that number is not going to be good, with 14.5. Now you saw that on that last slide that there were 15.1. Actually, you can see it at the top, and they haven't updated this, but it's gone up 1 billion records in the last. And my experience with MyHeritage is they are acquiring somewhere between something over 1 billion records every year. And so the number just continually goes up as they are as they are out there acquiring records by entire countries, not just as a record set, but an entire set of records from a country, for example. And they have a large DNA database. So it's now 15.1 billion records, which may have gone up since the last time I looked at this, which was a few days ago. Now we're going to talk about smart matching. Now, smart matching is entirely different than your record matches. Record matches are giving you sources. Smart matching are giving you people. So when you're looking at your smart matches, you are looking at people who appear in other users' family trees. So if I have someone like this, who's this Ovi Ephraim Overson here, who's one of my relatives. And I can look down here and I can see that there are 122 matches. That means there are 122 people that have this information about this individual. Now, the question is, what do I want to do about that? And the answer is, in my case, 122 matches is nothing. First of all, I have all of the basic information and sources about Ovi Ephraim Overson. And if anybody else had found anything on MyHeritage, they would have given it to me as a record match. So I don't really have any incentive to go out and talk. Now, let's change the circumstances here. Let's suppose that your ancestors did not come from like Ovi Overson, born of of Danish ancestry, but living here in the United States during his life. And let's suppose that they lived in a different country in Eastern Europe or in Ukraine or Russia or across the map, Latvia, Estonia, any of the countries out there, the Czech Republic, Hungary, any port. Here's the reality of it. MyHeritage has tens of thousands, if not millions, of users in every one of those countries. And if you then are signed in and are on MyHeritage and they start giving you smart matches, that means that you have people who perhaps will be living in those countries, and very likely you will. And it's likely that you will have connect with some of your ancestors, some of your relatives. This always depends, all of this depends on whether or not you build a family tree on MyHeritage. You have to have the information there for them to begin to do this process of finding records and finding smart matches. So what do you have? You have someone who lives in the country, who is interested enough in genealogy to have a family tree on MyHeritage, and then speaks the language and knows where the records are and whether they're available. And they are going to be able to talk to you directly through the program, where you can share information or not share information or do whatever you want. You do not have to do this. There is no obligation at all that you have to contact anybody through the program. But they will continually show you that you have all these people out there who have an interest in and are related, at least in some way related to you. And then you have your DNA matches. If you do a DNA test on MyHeritage, they will also show you anyone that you have a DNA match with. So it basically is giving you a tremendous opportunity to collaborate with people who live in the country. And I know people that have done this. Now I've gone through this process maybe hundreds of times with people, setting them up and getting them started into MyHeritage. And when you get into the program, immediately the program will give you a number of relatives. Now, this has happened to two different kinds of people. So, for example, one of the patrons that I worked with came in and said that she didn't know anybody in her family, had never had any contact whatsoever with anybody in her family, didn't know any of her relatives. Parents, apparently, she had no contact with her parents, nobody. And so we went into MyHeritage, and immediately MyHeritage showed her over 51 relatives. And I mean, it was a very emotional. She immediately started crying, and it was just it was an interesting experience. Here's the other end of the spectrum, though. Lady comes in, a patron comes into the BYU Family History Library and says she'd like to start her Danish research. And so we get into her. This was before the partnership was the same way it is today. And so we sat down, and she began entering. She entered her name and put some of her information in, her parents, her grandparents, and immediately had a family tree. And then we began to look at her family tree, and there were her Danish ancestors. So we began to look up the Danish ancestor line, and immediately, within a few minutes after she had just signed on for the first time, she got a smart match. The smart match says you share information with this person in the family tree. So I said, well, let's go look at what this person has. Well, it turned out that this person was apparently a very highly proficient genealogist in Denmark and had at least 5 generations of this lady's Danish ancestors. And unfortunately, what happened was that the patron who came into the library didn't understand what she was looking at, didn't understand what I was telling her about the person, and simply said, "Oh, that's nice, but I don't know what I'd do with that." So anyway, the answer is that it's more than just putting it out. Smart matching is people who are out there who are sharing the same interests and the same ancestors that you have, and that you have ability through the program to communicate with them, which has been used by many of the people I've worked with over the last few years in making some extraordinary advances in their genealogy. So look at this, for instance, this is a match. Okay, this is a smart match, and this is from some other user in the program that has the program. But in this smart match alone, I have a personal photo, I have additional photos, I have a birth date, I have a birthplace, I have a death date, I have a death place, I have resident spouses and children. And I can very quickly determine whether or not this person has sources supporting their information. And this person was in Australia. It was born in England. The person who owns this family tree is in Australia. And the interesting thing about this is that this is one of the ancestors of 3 of my family lines who immigrated to Australia from England. And so I have now a potential relative in Australia who has traced back to the same family. So we could find a whole lot about the descendancy lines from those particular ancestors by collaborating with these people. Okay, now some of the kind of the flashier, neat things about the program and just extraordinarily interesting things is number one is repairing photos. You can upload virtually as many photos as you like to MyHeritage. And as for members, if you synchronize, it brings over all those photos. So you'll have a huge number of photos on MyHeritage. And let's say you have a photo that looks like the one on the left, and then you go to the memories section here, or the section that has to do with my photos, your photo gallery, and you find this photo. Then you can click on the photo, and as you click on it, you're given the option to repair the photo if it's badly damaged. It will automatically, the program will automatically tell you if it can be repaired. And so then you click, and the results of the repair are on the right. Not perfect, but far better than what was there in the photo originally. In addition to that, once I have that photo, I can then take the photo and enhance it. So I can take the photo on the left, on the right, and do some enhancement. Now, you can see from the face on the one on the right that it's substantially more information, a lot more information than there is on the one on the left. And then if we go a little bit further, I can colorize the photo. You may or may not like the way that it gets colorized, but I can assure you that in many instances, colorization makes a dramatic difference in the amount of connection you have with the photo, as well as as anything else. Then the third part of it is that you can also add movement to the photo. And this is pretty spooky and kind of freaks some people out, like me, for example. I don't know if I can get used to that too much, but there you have your great-grandmother with some movement. So I think the other part of it that's extraordinary is that these are kind of one-click things. They're not working with Photoshop, you're not working with Lightroom, not working with some of the high-end Adobe products, but you're getting some very extraordinary results out of this. It's all part of MyHeritage. And so basically you have the photo on the left, and it has the yellow color cast that was created by the changes in the chemicals in the photo, and are basically irreversible unless you can reconstruct it, which is what's done on the right. Now, then you can save this photo and have this photo as it looked originally. In fact, probably better than it looked originally if you do all the rest of the color enhancement and everything else. Now, for those of you who are into kind of what I call the more challenging parts of genealogy, where you are working with names in various places around the world, but have a lot of the people with the same names. One of the things that is invaluable with MyHeritage is this pedigree map. It allows you to do what's called cluster research. That is, you can look at the number of people in your family tree who lived in the same areas, and it gives you specific information about all the different areas in your family tree. So here's like a gazetteer of every place in your family tree where people may have lived at some point in time. And it's just it's an extraordinary amount of information. Now, a few of the things, if you look at the top menu item up there, I haven't mentioned too much about DNA. And I haven't mentioned too much about the resources of MyHeritage. We have a number of other presentations online that give in the BYU Family History Library YouTube channel, where you can get additional information about all of the resources, other resources. But one place where I would suggest that you may want to get that kind of information is directly from MyHeritage. That's one extremely good place to go. And that's called education.myheritage.com. And it's the MyHeritage knowledge base. And there are a number of additional videos that show you in depth, and you can learn about how MyHeritage works. There's also a complete tutorial on the Family History Guide, which is thefhguide.com. You can do a Google search for the Family History Guide and it will come right up. And that has step-by-step instructions for getting into and learning about the MyHeritage program. And just here, just before we end the class today, I want to kind of go through a little bit more about the types of records that are on MyHeritage. There's just more than you can possibly imagine. For example, they have all of the US, they have a huge millions and millions of US yearbooks from high schools and colleges. And I can go in there and look at my old high school yearbook and see why I didn't like to have my picture taken. And there's lots of other, I mean, there's just huge city directories, huge collection of US city directories. These are US records that are there. Like I mentioned with Danish records, they have exhaustive records from Denmark. They're doing the same thing with Sweden and Norway. The Archidigital, your Swedish website, all of those records will eventually be accessible and indexed off of MyHeritage. The advantage of being a European country is that they have European friends and they can make European contacts. And so they have done that. And so the number of records. Also, MyHeritage is probably one of the best, if not the best place to go for German research. For kind of obvious reasons, because many of the people in Israel have ancestors in Germany and Eastern Europe, and so those are places they would naturally be interested in acquiring records for. So when you get it would really take a lot more time to go through all of the details of the program. But I just emphasize that it is worth the effort to have a family tree. If you really don't know what you want to do with MyHeritage, and you put on your free family tree and you get a DNA test, for example, you may get a little bit of information, but you'll find out that what you get and the information that you get is immeasurably valuable. I had a subscription to MyHeritage long before Family Search ever got into a partnership with them. So